Hi, my name is Natalie Chan, and this is Own Your Future, a show all about helping young people uncover truths about life and work. Join me as I invite some of my favorite people to talk about what is it that they do, lessons they've learned, and how is it that they're taking charge of their own lives. Make sure you subscribe to Own Your Future's new episode every week, or join us for our live stream chat. Find us on YouTube and podcast. Now, it's time to own your future and start living a happy and fulfilled life. We arrived at Shootsta's office in Wong Chuk Hang, and our next guest is Martin Liu. So let's go find him.
Hey Nat.
Hi.
You arrived early.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
How are you? I'm very happy to host you here. Welcome.
Thank you.
So this is the co-working space Campfire where we're based. This is on the right. On the right is a reception. Here you see is the coffee counter and the bar. And this area is where people do like their hot desk, basically have meetings and chats, and even they maybe have lunches as well. And there's a table for table tennis on the far right. And then this is a pantry area. There are more offices at the back where, our office is back there. But this room is where we're gonna meet today.
Great. So we'll take a few moments to set up and we'll be right back with you. Welcome to Own Your Future. Today's guest is Martin Liu. Martin grew up playing golf competitively, and then he studied Econ and political science in university before he went into finance, and then he went into social entrepreneurship. Then he became a video producer, and now he's working for a video production startup. Martin, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
So I want to go into a little bit of how we first met, because I think we were just trying to recall that before the show, and we both smiled the moment that you said, it was Jody.
Yeah.
And Jody's actually a guest on Own Your Future as well, so do check out her episode.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she's really amazing. She inspires both of us.
Yeah,
and we're just talking about how she lives the kind of life that we're so envious of.
100%. Yeah.
But today is about Martin, so let's bring it back to how we got connected and why we ended up building a friendship between us.
Okay.
So I think when I first met you, it was about you wanting to go into social entrepreneurship, and that's kind of how we were both connecting about wanting to do more social impact within our community. But before we go into that, I want to bring it back a little bit to when you were younger, because you shared that you were a competitive golfer growing up. And I think that's actually really interesting, because I don't know many friends that are in competitive sports, and especially from Hong Kong. So tell me a little bit more about that experience for you.
Sure. I got into the sport because of my family. My dad is actually a professional golfer. So I started learning a sport when I was 2 or 3 years old.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So my clubs were like this short. Basically I had like my customized set. And when I was in kindergarten, after school, there are days that my dad was free, and he would come back home like late in the afternoon, pick me up when I was done my homework, and brought me to the driving range. And we'd practice together when I was a little kid. And that's really how I picked up the sport.
How old were you when you first started?
It was kindergarten. I was 3 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. But I think that's also how we've built a bond between us using a tool or a medium, and that's golf. Yeah.
And what was it like being a competitive golfer?
It's incredible. It is. I would say it's an honor, because a lot of people obviously compete. They spend a lot of time on one thing at a hobby. They try to be really good at it, and I was lucky enough to be somewhat good at it. And then I started competing at a very young age, and because of that reason, it's brought me to many places around the world. Too many good memories. Obviously, there were tough ones as well. Like there were some very challenging times, but overall, I would say 100%. I would do it over again.
And then when you went to different places to play golf, was it part of a team that you're with? Or are you part of the Hong Kong team? Or how did that work for you?
Yeah, so I grew up representing Hong Kong at a junior level and at a men's men's adult, at the men's team. So there are two, golf, because is quite an individual sport. So a lot of times I would go enter as an individual player, but then there are also times that we go as a team to play for Hong Kong. So it depends what kind of tournaments where you were playing. There are definitely a lot of major international team tournaments that we travel with the whole team. Sometimes just boys, or sometimes boys and girls, it depends on the I would say the scale. But there are also the other times where I for sure went on tour where I was just traveling by myself or with a couple other friends or players, or maybe family, and I just toured around the places and played a bunch of tournaments. which was, they're all different, but I mean, yeah, they were just, great
But is
time.
this something that you want to do yourself, or is it something that your parents groomed you to be a competitive golfer?
I think when I was a kid, a bit of both. I mean, when you're little, you don't know what you want, right? And I think it's also because my family, we're all into golf, so we spend all the weekends and holidays on golf trips and golf holidays. So when I was a kid, I didn't really have an alternative. So when it was like Chinese New Year or Easter or summer break, the family holiday were always about golf, and I would be practicing, and then there were always tournaments that I had to enter. So that was part of my life. And summertime, I would get shipped off to like another place to train with a bunch of other people, and that was my time. It was a very disciplined schedule that I had, but it was also great because I always had something to look forward to. So I grew up being in an environment where I always had a schedule. I always knew what I was working for, which is also good because in a way, I did miss out quite a lot of time with, my friends, like hanging out, doing fun things. But at the same time, coming back from holidays, usually when I ask my friends, what did you do? Did you have fun? There were fun times, but they also say, it was kind of boring. I didn't have much to do over the holiday. But for me, it was, since a very young age, my every week schedule was always packed. And I'm very used to living in a schedule like this. So I think that's also shaped me as well.
So talk about the shaping part. How has golf as a sport or as being a student athlete shaped you as a person?
Well, a lot. I think two things. First thing, golf as a sport, you don't know it until you've really spent a lot of time in it. I think growing up, a lot of my friends, I barely had any friends playing the sport with me.
Because a lot of young people think that golfing is very boring, right?
Yeah.
So
100%, I agree.
Why do you find it so interesting?
I don't know, because I think when I started playing more and better and I started getting results, and I think it's also rewarding, right? When you start doing something, you get positive encouragement. I started winning tournaments, obviously get, praises from peers, from friends, from parents, from family friends, or the wider community. I was recognized. So it was for sure a positive reinforcement that really, I would say, encouraged me to continue playing. But that thing as a sport, again, it's not a team sport, right? I mean, I still played football, I played basketball, I played all kinds of team sports at school with friends. But it just taught me in a very different way, because golf in itself, as when you're growing up, you listen to some older generation people, they say, oh, golf is great, but you kind of feel like, it's just old people talking about old people stuff that you don't really recognize, you don't really realize what the meaning behind it was until you really start doing it. And it's so true, because it's such an individual sport. And at the end of the day, golf is a sport that teaches you your biggest enemy in life is actually yourself. You need to, you are competing with a lot of people, but if you actually focus on how other people get to where they need to be or to win that tournament, you've already lost. The point is to focus on yourself and keep improving, focus on your own game. And if you don't do it this time, it doesn't matter, because there's always a next time, right? And every round is different. Every hole is a new game, right? So it's really about that mentality and just continue to kind of plug along and grind. People say golf is a grind, which is true. But in a way, I think it also resonates a lot with life that people call it, right? Because life is not easy, but it's about how you perceive it. And it's what approach that you take to get to the direction or get to the destination that where you want to be. And that's what golf has really taught me, I would say, yeah.
I love it. So then, I think that's so profound when you say that golf is, this is like a solo sport. It's more about competing against yourself than it is with the people around you. Because I think a lot of times we're always trying to, win at the starting line and trying to compete with the people around us. But it's actually not about that. It's really about, how can you be a better version of yourself every time?
100%. And I think, especially, you obviously, there's a lot of practice involved.
How many hours would you say you practice every week, or how many hours you put into that?
Okay, just put it this way. At university, I had my degree as usual, just like all the
Because you were a Division I golf team player.
Yeah,
and
correct.
What did that mean for students who are not sure what Division I is?
I think, first of all, US, at least as of today, is still probably the only place in the world where you can get very high quality of education and competitive sports at the same time. There are not many places in the world that offers that. I know some other countries do, but at the competitive level, US definitely has the best facility, has the best infrastructure, and everything that comes with it to provide the best experience for students. That's why, I mean, you look at other sports like American football, basketball, baseball, swimming, there are a lot of top athletes come out of this program. And that, I mean, my whole life growing up, I knew US was the place I wanted to be for my university. So getting there was the first step, and obviously there are different divisions, and I was lucky enough to get into a Division I school. But getting there was not easy as well. Actually, I also failed once before getting my proper degree, well, I would say getting my acceptance at a D1 school.
Okay, tell me more, what do you mean by failing?
Yeah, so essentially it was actually interesting. So actually a lot of people didn't know that. When I graduated from my high school, just like.
And where did you go for high school?
I went to Charlton College, one of the ESF schools. And just like many other people, you go through that college admission process, you apply to X amount of schools, and there's some reaches, middle, or safeties. And obviously, you have your high school counselor advising you on how to strategize it. And then obviously, I did my SATs, and I did IB at my school, so did all the predicted score, everything all in one place. It's ready to go. I applied to a bunch of schools at a time. Actually, I was kind of late to go for this college golf or college athlete route because, to be honest, I didn't know. Because before me, there were people from Hong Kong who had done college golf in the States, but there was a massive gap. I think before me, there were like, I mean, you talk about Division I, at least like there's a 9 to 10 years gap.
Oh, wow.
So growing up, I had really no one to learn from or follow the path. This is the path that I should go for. So I had to figure out myself, which I didn't do a very good job at planning and preparing. And when I got some introductions, like some conversations from college coaches, it was good, but it was a bit too late. But anyway, it was there. And at that point, my focus was at least get into school first, right? And I actually remember I got my first response letter back from University of Michigan that I was already introduced to through a friend of mine who was a captain on the tennis team. And I got in touch with the school. They said, okay, well, it's a bit late because we have already signed all the players that we wanted to, but we're interested in you. But once you get into school, you'll be a walk-on, and then we can continue, right? And I thought, okay, well, I got my wait list. That was my first letter. I thought, well, University of Michigan is a pretty good school. So if I got waitlisted there, the other schools probably would be okay. And then I got one rejection letter, another one, and at the end I had none. Yeah, so I had no schools accepted me. Every single one rejected me. And I looked at myself like, wow, what have I done all my life to deserve this? And my parents were clearly very worried. Well, actually, more my mom. My dad is always kind of
more chill.
Yeah, like, okay, we'll do it again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how many schools did you apply to? And
Six.
6 schools.
Yeah.
And it was all through the golf scholarship or golf Division I?
Basically, I just applied through, like, I had conversations going on with the coaches. But it was kind of separate conversation. It's not like the normal route that I would normally take, or people that college athletes normally take. But yeah, I mean, I basically applied and I got rejected, and all the schools, because I was late, they said, because you got rejected by the school already, that I cannot admit you. Because usually they would try to get you in front of the line first, and they get admitted, and then things will work out. But I was too late, and then I got rejected by all the schools, so basically I didn't even have a chance to be a walk-on.
Wow.
That was painful.
And then what happened?
Well, I didn't really know what to do. I had to figure out myself, and I think that's also one thing that that's interesting about my upbringing. I think since I would say at the age of like 12 or 13, I've had to start making my own decisions for everything that.
Why do you say that? What do you mean by that?
Well, first of all, I'm the youngest child, and my 2 older sisters are quite a fair bit older than me. And to be honest, I'm not too sure why my parents just let me do these things, right? I mean, since I was like 12 or 13, I remember a lot of my friends had left for boarding school. My sisters were gone. I was the only one at home, and I thought the cool thing was to go to boarding school. And I kept on, pushing for the idea to my parents, and they were not supportive of it. At the end, I really wanted it, and my mom supported it, but my dad was really not happy about it. But anyway, so I decided to go away because I wanted to do that. And after I left for boarding school, I realized, okay, this is not what I had imagined. But
which part of it?
I mean, like I've always thought it's more like summer camp, right? Yeah. Obviously, when you're there, it's not like a summer camp. I mean, you know it. You've done it yourself. But once I got there, and then I realized, okay, this is the case. And I think from then on, I don't know. I think also at the same time, my parents have always known that I'm a very stubborn person. I always have my own opinion. And they knew once I had my mindset on something, they couldn't really change it anyway. Or maybe they just got lazy. I have the 2 older sisters, like, you know what, just let you do your own thing, just support me, which was what happened. And I think from then on, and then even actually, I went to boarding school for a little short while and actually came back to Shine College. But when I had to decide what classes, what subjects I would study, where I would go for university, what I would study at university, everything, my parents left it to me. I think it's also, my parents always knew, okay, I would always have some sort of idea, direction, or plan, and they just were there to assist, if anything, pay the bills, or hopefully it's not too much. But at the same time, I think, I remember when I was a little kid, they already said to me, it's like, hey, my parents are very classic example, people from Hong Kong grew up in a very humble upbringing, didn't have too much education because the family couldn't afford to. And because of that reason, and I mean, they've done well for themselves, and so that we could have this provided for a family, an environment that that my sisters and I enjoyed. But at the same time, my parents always said, well, I didn't go through it, so who am I to say, who am I to tell you that this is the right way to do? If anything, I would try to encourage you or try to find help for you, but you need to make decisions for yourself. And it's been like that with me since I was 12 or 13.
Wow.
So that became that decision. So even when I messed up, got all rejections, it was down to my fault, right? But at the same time, it was also I think I had a conversation with school as well, because obviously the school had a part to play, because their goal was also to help me to get into these universities, right? But again, anyway, but to be honest, it's a blessing in disguise, because of that happened. Then I redid the whole process, and I actually had a proper counselor who helped me, and I redid a bunch of tests, and I really strategized what kind of schools I wanted to go for that would best fit for the kind of direction that I would like to take, and at the end, I got the best outcome. Yeah, so it all worked out.
And what did you do during that year? So that was pretty much a gap year for you.
Yeah, so that year I played full-time for Hong Kong, so I competed for Hong Kong around that year, mostly Asia, and just competed across, different countries. At the same time, I had to work on my college application, and that was the year. But basically that was the 1 year, the gap year I did. Yeah.
And then because I think before we were talking about when you actually went onto these trips and played against other countries, representatives, that you had, you realized that you were playing with a different mindset than what they were playing with.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
I think growing up, especially honestly, we're from Hong Kong. We should know that we're very, very lucky and privileged. Hong Kong offers everything.
Running water.
Yeah.
Turning on the tap.
Yeah.
That is ready.
Yeah. All the problems that we face are really first world problems. Yes, for sure, Hong Kong still has a lot of problems that we should address today. But for the most part, we're much better than a lot of people in the world.
Sure. We're very, very lucky.
Yeah. At the same time, growing up as playing this as a sport, it's a hobby. My parents also never really put pressure on me, saying okay, you gotta turn pro. This is your livelihood. I think because my dad grew up. When my dad, golf is his profession, and he knew how difficult it would be as a professional golfer. So he always wanted to provide me the support. If I wanted to go for it, it's there for you. But if you decide not to, please don't, because it is not an easy journey, just like any other professional athletes. That was kind of the groundwork that he laid out for me. At the same time, I guess because, he also provided me a lot of resources, and I was, somewhat good at what I was doing, and I was, winning some tournaments as well. So when I got to the international stage, just compete with the other players, which is great. It was a lot of fun, but at the same time, I could really see especially from other Asian countries, the training that they had, the kind of work, hours, and sacrifice I had to make in order to get there. It's nothing, mine is nothing compared to what they had. All I need to do was just to show up, right? And everything would be provided for me. For them, it's a lot more work. It's a lot more sacrifice. The family had to sacrifice for them, and the travel, and they would not see their friends. It's a very different mentality. And going there and see, and these people and they also know. A lot of them. It's not like I had a really good education in Hong Kong, right? A lot of those quit school, dropped out of school already since maybe they were like 12 and 13, and that was the only thing they had going for. If that didn't work out for them, they had to really look for something else in life. Whereas like I had options. I always had options, which is a privilege, because just like what we said, like Hong Kong people always have options.
Yeah.
Many other people in the world don't have options. And I think that's a moment when I really realized, where I came from. That really humbled me. But at the same time, I do think, on the flip side, I think because they knew that was not an option, the mentality that they got to build is very different. When you're fighting for your life, you really feel like it's all or nothing. That would also make or break a true athlete or a true star. Yeah.
Wow. And so before we jump into the next phase of your life, what would you say is your biggest takeaway from being a competitive golfer?
Always, I think golf really taught me how to dream, and that's the beginning. I think we all need, humans, we need dreams.
Well
dreams take us to places, give us a direction, give us a purpose, and I think that was the one thing. And I think also because of that experience, it taught me a lot. It taught me discipline. It taught me persistence. It taught me hard work. It taught me that things will always go up and down. A lot of times more downs than up, but those downs make the up much more rewarding. I do truly think so. And again, I like what I said earlier. It's about focusing on yourself. Everyone is different. We're all different. Even let's just say at a time when we all went to the same coach, learning the same thing, but how we swang, and it's like that we all look different. That means we're all different, right? And so because of that reason, you always got to focus on who you are, what you're good at, what's your version, and create the best version for yourself. And this is how you get to your dream. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's so profound, because I think we've all had some sort of competitive spirits in us, like growing up, whether it's in music, it's in sports, but I think to be able to achieve the kind of level of competitiveness that you're in, it's a completely different mindset. So to be able to hear that from you, I think that's so humbling.
And there's a lot of luck. Actually, there's a lot of luck in life.
Is it, or is it hard work? Like, which do you attribute to better?
I mean, hard work is given. Everyone works hard. I mean, there are other people out there who've got to where they are and have not needed to put in a lot of hard work to get there as compared to other people. But to stay there, I mean, it shows. Like, if you look at any other top athletes, we lost Kobe Bryant lately, right? And he's known as, if anything, the hardest working one out there. And there's a reason for it. I mean, you can be fluky to get somewhere, but you won't stay for long. And everything is about luck. And luck is timing, right? And when timing meets preparation, that's what they say. And that's when you succeed. So it's all about that and just being very consistent about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I think we can just end the interview here. Just kidding. Okay, so moving on. So why did you choose to study econ and political science?
Well, I was actually in a business school, and I studied a very, generic business classes, but I was also in the middle, I was in Washington, D.C., where everything around politics happened. And, you would see the president of one country goes by, and then like Obama would speak at my school every now and then. Wow. And you see like the chief of like IMF, like Christine Lagarde, we would run into her at Whole Foods, right? I think because of that environment, politics really grew on me. I wanted to switch to the School of International Affairs, which was also, at the time, it was like top 3 undergrad program in the US. But the problem was, I was too late to make the transfer, because actually at the time, as a student athlete, I had a very fixed schedule. I had practice every day, Monday to Friday, and there are days that I basically have full half day gone, and then some days a few hours during the day. And I had very limited time. Even to kind of schedule my classes around practice was always very difficult. Oh, wow. And because of that reason, if I had to make that switch, that means I had to graduate 1 or 2 years later. And I didn't want to do that. And so then I had to stay in a business school, but then I realized because of DC, there was one program within my business school that is basically, it's called economics and public policy, economics and public policy essentially. So it's kind of like a hybrid between business school and the School of International Affairs and the School of Colleges Science. I thought, okay, well, and that program is actually really unpopular. Like every year there are only like 3 people that would take that course. But I signed up for that course, and that's when I really started learning more about international politics and economics.
Okay, and what did you think you were going to do after university?
Well, honestly, at that point, I wasn't too sure because, okay, so one thing I was sure as a freshman year at university, I was sure that I was not going to get into banking. Second year, I was still sure that I was not going to go to banking. And actually, and I knew one thing also, another thing is like, I knew I was playing college golf for 4 years. And when I graduate, I knew that would be the time. That's my end of my golfing career. So I knew professional golf was not the route that I wanted to take. When I was exploring, I had a bunch of different internships, and as I said, like I knew I was not going to banking, but a friend of mine really convinced me to apply for this internship the junior year summer, when everyone's going for the summer internship before you graduate, and just give banking a shot. And I was like, because of him, and I thought, you know what, okay, fine, I'll give this a go. And I just tried to find an area in banking that I thought was a bit more interesting, and I applied to a bunch of stuff. And somehow I got in. I got into this internship in London, and I went for it, and I had an amazing time, an amazing summer. And I got a return offer, so then I joined banking. Yeah, it was completely random. But actually, I remember at the time, I actually wanted to go for a management consultant, like a management consulting job. I don't remember what happened, but I think because, I mean, those applications, there's so much. And once I was done with these, I'm like, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to, I mean, I still had my golf, I still had my school, and I just didn't want to bother. And that's how I ended up in finance at the end.
Wow, so you were in the London office to start with?
Yeah.
And what was that? What did you do in finance?
Yeah, so I was in the private banking sector, and I joined, I joined as a graduate, I joined the graduate program that a lot of banks offer.
And what does private sector mean?
Private banking.
For those who don't know what private banking is.
So private banking essentially is one area of banking that you manage the wealth of ultra high net worth people, like basically people with a lot of money. And they basically create a whole different department only to facilitate the growth in the wealth, which is an eye-opening experience to see how rich people can be, and how they gain their wealth, which is a great story, always a good lesson to learn, and also how they manage it and how they preserve it, and also how people blow it all away. Right? I think it's an eye-opening experience. So I started that in London. And I mean, again, at the same time, because in the program, you'll be working together with your investment banking people and all the other markets. And that's basically how the banks are structured. But yeah, that's private banking. And that's where I started. I started in London. And then, well, actually another funny side story, basically, it was I got a return offer. And I thought, okay, my life was, my next life or next 2 years is set. I enjoyed my final year of university, and all I needed to do was just to complete my degree and play golf. And actually, that year we won our conference championship, which was the first in our school history.
Wow!
Which is really a good way to end it. And I had the best time in the 4th year of my university. Then I remember very well on the day after my commencement, my parents were still around. I woke up to an email sent from HSBC, which is the bank that I worked for. They said the program that you signed up for is no longer exists, or in a way, it's like it's different. Basically, I signed up for this program. It's 18 months. You will be 6 months. There are basically three kind of parts of this 18 months contract. Each part you'll be based in a different region at a different area of the bank, which is fantastic, right? I want to go for that. But when I got the email, basically this program no longer exists because of cost cutting. The bank is going through a lot of restructuring, and now it's going to be going to 12 months, one location, take it or leave it. And at the time I thought, well, I didn't apply to any other jobs. If I didn't take this, I would be jobless. So I went for it. I mean, I knew some friends didn't take it because they did, they did apply to something else, which in hindsight, maybe I should have, but I was enjoying my time. I mean, no regrets. But yeah, and I signed up for it, and then I still did my training, everything in London. And then during the training, they basically tell you which country do you want to go to. And I thought, well, all I want to do was just get out of Hong Kong. So, but I also had to be realistic, right? Look at like the bank where they're strong geographically. So I positioned Hong Kong maybe like my third choice. At the end, probably just said, oh, you're from Hong Kong, just go back there. Oh. So I ended up back in Hong Kong again, like soon after I started the job with HSBC in Hong Kong. Yeah. Okay. And then how long did you last in private banking before you went on to your next phase in life? And why did you go to the next phase in your life? First of all, I finished the 12-month program in Hong Kong across three different areas of the bank, which is actually still a very rewarding experience. I made a lot of good contacts. For example, I remember my first boss. My very first boss, my first week on the first team back in Hong Kong, this first boss that I'm still in touch with, I see him once or twice a year. We still meet up for a beer. And I remember the first week he told me, he's kind of like a father figure to me, and he just said to me, hey, during this time when you're here with our team, there are a few things I would like you to really start thinking. First of all, within like this team, is this where you want to be? If not, within this department, like where would you like to be? Or is this a place where you want to be? Then take it one level up. Well, within this private banking area, which teams would you want to be, want to stay? If you don't like it here, then how about the bank? Where would you like to go? And if not this bank, then maybe which other banks would you like to go? And if you take it one step further, it's like at the end, is banking for you? And I remember the first week they basically encouraged me to start thinking this way. So from the very beginning, it's almost like we got to do things with a purpose, right? It's always bringing back to that, and always thinking you got to do things with a purpose, understand why you're doing it, and what you're going to get out of it. And I always had that thought in my mind. And so during the time when I was there, I quickly figured out like, okay, what area I would like to be in, what kind of people I would like to work with. But basically, after I finished the program, then I wanted to join two teams, and basically I would say the team head on those teams were also happy that they would take me. But then, just like many other big organizations, there are always some internal struggles in terms of timing, headcount, some politics, and I was asked to wait for a while, and at that time, actually, a friend of mine from university had asked me for a while already to ask me to get on this social finance project with him in the US. And I thought, well, I had this opportunity, and actually the way that it was lined up was also actually very amazing. Like, it was a very meaningful project. It's very new, but I love doing something that no one has ever done before. And then also, he also got someone very, very powerful in Silicon Valley to support this idea. To be honest, I thought it was too hard to turn down. So at the same time, actually, I decided to go back to play full-time golf for one last year. Because growing up, I had some dreams or goals that I would really like to accomplish that I wasn't able to accomplish due to numerous other reasons. And I thought, you know what, if I don't give them the shot now, it will be too late. And
what were those goals for you, or dreams for you?
I want to be a national champion. I want to win my national championship. I want to get to the world championship. And basically, I wanted to get to the biggest stage that I could achieve at my level without turning pro. So those were my goals. Because at the time, even when I thought I had a shot, I want to compete, I want to qualify, but I was in the US. I never really had the shot. And at times before that, I came close. a few times, but I thought, you know what, like, you live once, right? Hopefully I can kind of finish off on a good note and just, hang my clubs. So basically I worked out a way that I could divide my time between doing that big project in the US and doing the, pretty structure my calendar year, my golf schedule calendar year in a way that I could accomplish both things, which I did. Yeah, it worked out. I mean, in golf.
Did you achieve your dream?
I did, yeah. Like,
well done. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. I made it happen, which is really,
And what did it feel like when you have a dream and then you achieved it? Like, then what?
It's
like, what was that like?
Well, first of all, it's just the most rewarding thing that you can have. I mean, it's better than any other feeling or happiness. I mean, sure there are many other, but it is something that is beyond special. And all the hard work that you put in, probably some people have had doubts along the way. Do you decide to, shut off those noises and focus on yourself? And it's amazing. Again, but the thing is, for a lot of people, like just like professional athletes now, after this they will focus on the next, right? But for me, I knew that was my end. So it's just a good way to end it on a high note, that I can say I I can leave this sport with no regrets. So actually now people hardly see me on a golf course. Because I realize it's really behind me. I don't...
Yeah, I rarely hear you talk about it.
Yeah,
your past until this whole interview. I'm like, wow, there's so much about golf that I've never asked you about or never found out about you.
Well, I think it's also good that it's, I always like to call it as like my previous life. It's like one part of my life, the goals that I wanted to accomplish, which I did, and then, always move on to the next, right? There's no need to dwell on the past. It's always like nice to think back on the good memories, but you always move forward. And I would like to focus on my next, achievement or next goals that I would like to accomplish. I would like to keep it at that. Yeah.
So when it comes to the social finance, what is social finance? Can you please explain that?
Sure. So essentially, social finance is how do you make use of capital to invest or grow in businesses or projects or infrastructure or development that actually create positive impact in the world. That's really social finance. At the time when I first joined it, actually, it was very early, it was in the industry. It's still very green. But I think in the last 5 to 8 years, it really has grown a lot, which is very nice to hear. And I think also now, talking about social, talking about environmental issues, sustainability is a must. It's in everyone's life.
So true. And then, so what came after you leaving, golf behind, leaving finance world, and then going to social financing? Like, how did the rest of your life unfold?
Well, first of all, it was another hiccup that I faced, because the golf was great. I accomplished what I had intended to do. But that project ended up, failing due to a couple of a number of reasons. But it's because of that project that kind of opened the door for me. It's like, oh, this is social finance. It's so much more meaningful, especially when I was coming from the finance world, and especially private banking. You see the amount of wealth there is, and how people make use of the wealth is not that efficient. Or if anything, this is my personal opinion, it's probably not the best way to do it. So then I thought, well, then there's a lot of capital to move around. Why not put into good use? So that's when I first of all, it opened the doors for me to see this side of the world, which is amazing. And then because of that, and I thought, well, when I decided to get deeper into it after that, little obstacle that I faced, and I thought, you know what, I came from such a traditional finance world. And how can I learn more about this? And what's the best way to learn about this is to really go on the other end of it, meaning the nonprofit sector. And at the time I was thinking hey, I say, or people always say, I offer you this, I offer you the help, thinking that I can help you. But you never really know or listen from the other side, how would you like to be helped? Which is, I think it's a very important message that everyone needs to know. And I thought, well, then who am I to say that you can take the money in a good use, right? Like, and I thought, well, then how about I go for an experience in the nonprofit sector and learn it from the other end? And actually, a friend of mine, a close friend of mine, he had done this program at the Clinton Foundation, and he said, hey, apply for it. It's a really rewarding experience. I mean, it's one of the best foundations in the world, for sure, top 3 or top 5 in the world. That was also before the time that Hillary Clinton ran for presidency. So there's a lot of excitement, a lot of activity, and it would be a really good learning experience for you. And I did, and I mean, to be honest, I didn't think I would get in. I got in.
Wow.
So then I moved to New York for it.
And what did you do for them?
So I was in the biggest initiative among the Clinton Foundation called Clinton Global Initiative, which I don't know if it still exists today because they had to kind of dissolve it due to Hillary's campaign for the presidency. But at the time, it was the biggest. And basically, every year, we call CGI, Clinton Global Initiative. CGI organizes a bunch of meetings, what they call basically conferences and events. And during these conferences, that's when they bring the leaders of the world together, or big corporations together, to come into agreement or bring their resource over to and help the ones or businesses or people in need. So CGI was in charge of organizing these events. However, you would imagine, okay, these events are like just events, right? But actually, there's a lot of people behind the scene that will research, investigate what are the problems that need to be solved. And then you find it's a supply demand, right? Like this is a demand side. So on the supply side, what kind of people can come in, what kind of companies and resources can be brought in order to solve these problems. And I was in charge of that. So I was on a team that's in charge of researching the things that need to be addressed, where needed help, and then find the supplying side, what companies, how they can help this, and put together like these plans. And actually, so on the other side, you see these people doing public speaking, talking about the good things or advertising things that they were doing. But actually, behind the scene, there are all different small meeting rooms, and that's when President Clinton basically leverage his personal power and say, you guys get in here, I lock the door, you have half an hour to agree on this, you don't get out until you've come up with a plan. And basically we had to organize all of that. So it's like there's one thing is like for show on the front, and on the other side is about really people getting things done. And working, President Clinton really has, I mean,
how many times did you see him during that?
Quite often, actually. He was in the office a lot, and that's another thing. I mean, I don't think I'd ever met anyone who was as charismatic as he was or he is as a person. It's crazy. It's so crazy that when he walks in the room, even though like maybe my desk is facing this way, he walked in behind me in the big, my area of the office section, you could feel someone or something is that. And like he just had this aura, this like vibe of energy. It's just, exploding, and you could feel it. And you really do feel that, and he really has a philosophy of how he would like to change the world, how he would like to run, his foundation, his business, you call it. And you do feel from top down, everyone embodies that same culture, which is really powerful. And I think you talk about leadership, despite the scandals that he had. You talk about leadership. He really is a true leader. Like there is no one who leads better by example in terms of what you need to do at work and show it to help you and show your presence and show your support. He's there.
And can you define what makes him a good leader?
You know what? It's really interesting. I always remember the story. So there are a lot of foundations in the world. I'm not saying Clinton is the best, right? I mean, I really admire the work from Gates Foundation as well. And I do think, Bill Gates and Melinda Gates are doing an incredible job in what they're doing. I think actually, apparently, he already invented the vaccine for coronavirus.
What?
I think so.
From the Gates Foundation?
I think so.
All right, we'll fact check.
Yeah, I mean, I read something. Basically, said like it's there. Like now they're putting he's putting a lot of resources in like making sure that this is done, and then now everyone in their household can test it.
Wow.
Yeah, but anyway, despite the point, I remember one time when I listened to President Clinton talk, and he said, or it was like the CEO, the president of CGI talked about the story. I don't remember. But what happened was like, there are a lot of people, a lot of organizations or foundations or leaders in the world will always say, oh, I go in and help you. I give you this, I give you that, and to help you. And Africa is a common place where people travel to and do that, right? But on the other hand, you probably feel like, okay, well now this time it's this person, this time it's that person, and it's like, it's such a regular thing for them, and to be honest, like probably for them, I mean, sure, they got some help, but probably didn't mean too much, right? But I remember one time, the story was, we went to Africa, I don't remember where it was in Africa, and it was like, it's basically for an agricultural project. He got to the farm, and then the person was kind of giving him a tour, telling him this is like what we're working on, these are the problems they're trying to solve, and we're trying to alleviate poverty, and these are the people that we're trying to benefit. And all of a sudden, President Clinton just, kind of got down on his knee and started touching the soil. And then the leader laughed. And he just said, okay, done. Whatever you want to do, I'm on board. We're on board. And he asked, why? He said, all these people, they say they want to come in and help. They just come, they look, they just stop by, send the car, get out, have a look, take some photos, and gone, right? They say they'll help. Not a single person has really got their hands dirty. You're the first. Wow. And it really shows, like, if you want to actually truly benefit someone or create an impact for other people, or even lead the people, be there on the front line. Always lead by example. And I really, really believe in that. I mean, I think just like, if you talk about the war days in the past, right? How the generals would take the lead, ride their horses, go up to the front of the army, and lead the battle, right? And this is how you show how you lead a team to be a true leader. Wow. And I really do feel that way.
That's a great story. Thank you for sharing. Wow. So then how long was your experience at the Clinton Foundation?
It was 4 or 5 months. So basically, I was on a visiting work tourist visa, and so that that was the maximum amount of time that I could do without getting a proper work visa. But actually during the time when I was there, and I knew that was where I wanted to stay in New York, and I really wanted to get back on the private sector, but doing something very similar. And I actually had applied to a lot of jobs, went for a lot of interviews, and at the end, it was always the same problem, visa. It was timing. No one could sponsor me a visa at that point because it was during summertime. And for the work visa H1B, the application closes every year around first week of April, and the lottery was always during July or later, and then they basically will announce the result in September or something, if I remember correctly. But anyway, I missed that round, and otherwise I would have to wait a whole year or work out some other visas that was very challenging for me to qualify for. So yeah, it was just always came down to the last things, like, I like it, I think we should start. Do you need a visa? Yes. Oh no, can we wait? Yeah. I
think that's a very good point, because I think we never really realized that visa is such a big issue in anywhere you work in the world until you're trying to find a job in that country, and you're like, oh, you can get the job, but you just couldn't get the visa to be in the country, for example. So it's a good reminder for everybody to actually think about how to do that. And I think for those who may want to work overseas, it's always much easier to study abroad, to be in that country first, and then you can always get an extension visa from a student visa.
Correct, yeah.
But then if you want to just go to a completely new country, sometimes there are some like cross-border kind of like connection between two countries, and it allows you to have an exchange, but you have to kind of find out what that information is, I think.
But I think that's a very good point, right? I think people are a lot of times often, they try to apply for things, get things remotely before they go. But to be honest, you need to get there first. You need to get there first, and that's how you get a lot of opportunities, like FaceTime to meet people. You need chances, and you get much more chances. Obviously, it's much more conservative. It's nice to get something lined up before you go, but reality is you need to get there first. And a lot of times also people need to see commitment, right? Like by getting there, showing your commitment, that's what people go for.
Wow. So it just sounds like your life story has been a lot of like missed chances, and then like diversion, and then like something didn't happen the way that you had planned and diverge. So what do all these experiences kind of like, how do you grow from them, and like what do they mean to you?
Well, I think something that I learned as well is like, I guess also from golf. Life is about the mess ups. It's never about going after getting what you want. Growing up, I remember very well when I was a kid as well. I remember there was a period of time, especially at the beginning of university, because my life had always had so much predictability. My holidays, my schedule, everything is so predictable, and my life at that time was all about certainty. So when there's uncertainty, I would freak out. But life is about uncertainty, right? So it's about how you make of those uncertainties or make of those mess ups, and grow from it and learn and change, adapt, and get better. I really think it's about that. So they say golf is a game about imperfection, which is true. I mean, I'm sure you can relate as well how you end up where you are today.
Yeah.
Compared to where you started off.
And there's actually this term, I don't know if you've heard of this term called VUCA. So basically VUCA stands for V is volatile, U is unpredictable, C is complex, and A is ambiguous. So it's actually a term that describes the world that we're in.
Yeah.
It's constantly in flux and there's so much changes. And I think going back to what we're saying about life is like that. But yet our traditional schooling system, everything is so structured and everything is so boxed into you know exactly what to expect. It's so predictable, going back to what you were saying.
Yeah.
And I think what you just said, it sets us up for failure in life.
Yeah.
Is that everything you learn in your education is about what's next and how do you get from point A to point B, and then go into the real world, it's actually not point A to point B anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it still is, but the path is not there.
Yeah.
So I think it's so interesting how your life lessons is showing you that you need to be ready for anything. Yeah,
actually, I just came back from Nepal last week, and I spent a few days there. And especially, I had a short stay at Kathmandu, and it's actually quite a special experience for me. It's a really, I don't know. Have you been to Kathmandu?
I would love to.
Yeah, it's actually, so a lot of people speak poorly about it because it's a very chaotic city. It's very messy. It's not the cleanest place in the world, and it's also very dusty, which is fair. I can see all of that, but one thing I do really appreciate, I remember spending some time walking on the street, and you just see so many different kinds of people just focusing on their own thing. They're all hustling for what they're going for. I mean, is it the best environment to grow or to study, to raise a family? For a lot, maybe they would not say the same, But on the other hand, I see how these people just hustle because life is not supposed to be perfect, and they just adapt. They just, to be honest, they don't even care about any other people. They all have their own dreams. Some vary from the others, and they're just going after their lives, and they're not being adaptable. And I think it's very truly beautiful, especially coming back to Hong Kong. You realize the way that the society is being structured, the government is structured, our education, parenting, everything is about this and hoping everything is the best set up for you, which is it's, again, we're very fortunate.
We're very fortunate.
I mean, in a lot of places in the world, they would love to have what we have, but to be honest, I think in life it's about finding that balance. You obviously try to improve the standard of living for all. You're trying to provide. I mean, when you're a parent, you try to provide the best environment for your next generation. But it's about giving that right balance and also allowing them to fail and to support them. Which is, in a way, now in hindsight, probably the way that I was raised by my parents is a good thing, because I've always not encouraged, but I had to make my own decisions, right? So I had to fail because of my own fault. Yeah. And because of that reason, I just had to come back from it and just keep doing that. And they always gave me the support. I don't think they were planning that, because I'm pretty sure they were not thinking about how they were doing, why they were doing it, but it just happened this way. And I thought, you know what, that's truly beautiful. Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest difference between, I think, how you were raised and how I was raised. Everything was so planned and so structured because my parents were so worried about me failing. Yeah. They're so worried about me falling, and they want to make sure that everything is paved completely. Yeah. And I think that's where I struggled so much when I went into the real world. Yeah. I was like, wait, what happened to that paved road? Yeah. It's not happening anymore. And that's where I crumbled, and I was like, oh my God, this is not what I expected. Yeah. And I realized that, oh wow, it's because my parents were so worried and they cared so much and they wanted to make sure that their kids grow up in the best environment possible.
Yeah.
But then sometimes that might not be the best scenario to put them in, because they have no idea how to fend for themselves in the real world. They have no idea how to adapt.
But they can't help themselves, right? I mean, at the same time, you know, they probably went through a time where like it was not easy. It was actually very challenging, and all they wanted was to provide the exact opposite for their kids, the best environment for them to grow up in, right? Which is also the way that my parents did it. I mean, I say that, but at the same time, my mom is still a typical tiger mom. And they would, don't do that. If you every time make mistakes, like, you know, like why? Like try to follow the rules and never make mistakes. And you know, but I think we can see where they come from. But I think it also takes some, you know, learning and experience. And yeah, I mean, one example is my grandma. I mean, she's about 91, 92 now, and she went through the Second World War, and she grew up as a girl. You know, she could actually go to school in her village, which is like probably she's only one of the 2 girls in the entire village that could attend school, who could go to school. Wow. She had a shop. She's considered like a wealthy girl. She had like a team with like staff of people working for her family and all that stuff. But during the Second World War, everything was taken away. And now, like, so literally, like, she went from being in the most comfortable environment to lost it all, and her families were dispersed around the world. And so her mindset now, even today, is like, now, even when she has some money, she wouldn't want to spend it, because one day she feels like in her past, like basically she's traumatized. One day, whatever you have can be taken away from you. And that's from past experience, right? I think it's also in the way that our parents were growing up. Well, it's just funny that like my parents will always say this now, like they always said how happy they were, but they had nothing. And actually, you know, kids nowadays, to be honest, we have everything compared to what they had, but we're not the happiest.
Our happiness index is so low in the world,
exactly.
In Hong Kong. Okay, so let's take what we learned here and like move it forward to your last kind of stage of your current life, I would say, because you went into film production, and then now you are a video startup.
Yeah.
You're in a video startup.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So explain to me why this phase of your life.
Okay. So at a time when I was in social entrepreneurship, I was very frustrated, because when I was selling the idea, when I was really selling these businesses, people always thought, well, social business, social finance is just charity, but it's not. But at the time I thought, okay, so how could I change people's mindset? It's from storytelling, media. And at the time, it was 2015, 2016, video was really starting to grow exponentially. Went from, I think at the time it was a Facebook, like it was 30% video content. It jumped from 30 to like 70, more than 50, and within a year or two. And I thought, well, you know what, I want to learn about storytelling, you know, how to change people's mindset. And so that I can bring it back to, you know, the social sector and change. No, this is not how you see social businesses. You can do well, make money at the same time. This is all we need to move. This is the direction that we need to move to. And that was the idea that why I wanted to get into video production. I also had an opportunity basically to run the business side of things for a small production company with a few really talented artists. And we got together, and basically I was learning how all this industry works, learn how to make commercial films, learn how to make feature films, and I also produced a documentary together with this team that I really believed in for the cause of it, right? And that was the whole idea of why I want to get into like storytelling and filmmaking, because I think at the end of the day, I remember I really like listening to people tell stories, and I'm not actually my friends always make fun of me, like I'm a terrible storyteller.
I don't think so.
I mean, maybe I got better because I was so bad, but yeah, I was always a terrible storyteller, and I always love stories, and I love films, but in a way that like stories are being told. And that's really the reason why I got into video production or film production per se. But how I ended up in a video production startup, I think it's by chance. At a time when I was actually about to leave the video production world to go back to more traditional business or finance world, because my thought, my intention was bring this back to traditional business world, right? Actually, a recruiter came to me with this opportunity at Shootsta. At the beginning, I was not even interested. because I thought, not another video production business, right? But when I learned more about the business model, and then I spoke to, my boss now, who is the VP of Asia, and then also I got to speak with the CEO, the founder of the company as well. I realized, what Shootsta, our company is called Shootsta, is a video technology startup company. And what we're doing is so innovative. It's the only thing that exists in the world.
Can you explain what they do?
So essentially, we're a one-stop shop for any type of organization to produce very high volume of video content in a very quick turnaround and cost-effective manner. So our model is the opposite of like a video production agency, a creative agency. We don't do project-based. We're about this long-term relationship, working directly with a client to help them create or basically achieve a long-term content goal or success for them.
And why is that a need in today's world?
Because video content is a must, right? All businesses nowadays, they need to create more and more videos because it's the way that people digest information. And now, because it's a strong need, and there's only the traditional way does not support the kind of capacity that they would like to pursue. The way that because video production has always been limited by time, resources, and then budget.
It's always very expensive.
Correct. It's because it's so labor intensive, right? And so because it's very project based kind of industry, but our business model is to reverse that. Because of the way that we do it, we're very smart about it as well, that really allows companies to start thinking, okay, wow, this is actually how I can create videos sustainably over the long run, and this is how we do it. So that's why it's also complicated at times, because when people come to me and think, oh, you just the video production agency, but actually we're really the opposite. But it's also really it's a really good learning experience as well, because I've always liked learning new things and also creating things. And my job here was really I was the first hire in Hong Kong to help them build the Hong Kong operation, now in the regional operation, and then to build a team. I'm very lucky to have an amazing team working with us here in Hong Kong and across Asia. It's really a rewarding experience to see something from a little baby to see it grow, which is also something that I'm truly passionate about. I love building stuff. And through storytelling is also a great way to do it. So basically, and obviously, technology is one big component of our business model, which is the way forward. So yeah, there are a lot of things I would say I'm taking away from my current experience that also in a way combining everything that I had learned. And also like I said, right, I'm building something from scratch, from something very small to big. You're bound to fail. And I fail again repeatedly, regularly, every week, sometimes even every day. But it's about taking what you've learned and grow and adapt and just keep moving on.
So with all these experiences that you've had from being a student athlete to working in different industries and fields, what is something that you can bring to our audience as a lesson that you can give to them?
It brings me back to one of the first things I said, always have a dream. Because the dream really gives you a direction. And I think a lot of people struggle to find direction or struggle to figure out what they want to do. But to be honest, it doesn't matter because things change all the time. What you want to do today can be different tomorrow. But when you have a dream, when you have a direction, at least you're going somewhere. And eventually, those things the dots will connect or take you to a place where you need to be at that time. I think it gives you a purpose. I think that's very, very important because even sometimes, okay, so what you like, I think people have come to me as well and asked me, okay, so I don't know what I want to do, but even sometimes hobby, things that excite you or things that make you dream about, like there are things that make you give it a second thought, right? And those are like your clues, right? And follow them. I guess I've always been very lucky that I've always known what I wanted, but it changed many, many times as well. But it's good having something that you want to go for. It gives you a place, and eventually, because you will fail, you will learn, but you also realize that you just don't stop move. Just keep moving, keep walking forward, because eventually it will always lead you to a way. There's a path. It doesn't mean it's straight, right? But at least you're going to that direction. Okay, for example, you want to go to one try, right? Like one try is that you know it's that direction, but you don't know how to get there. You know it's just somewhere around there, and then you just keep going, and eventually you will arrive. But during the whole process, you will learn a number of things. You probably picked up so many skills, and if you had to do it over again, like I mean, it'll take you maybe so much little time. But that journey, it would be tough, but it's actually very rewarding. And then you make friends along the way, like you and me, yeah. And you learn new skills, and it's just experience, right? Again, like it's like storytelling. I mean, life is about creating a story. It's not about how fast you get there. It's about how you can create that beautiful journey, like how people create films. Because at the end, you want to get to the start and the end, right?
Yeah.
It's about putting whatever in the middle.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So Martin, thank you so much for sharing all this about your life and kind of like what you were so open to share about your failures and your learnings, and just kind of be so candid about what you had gone out of all this. So, as you know, this is a show called Own Your Future, and I only invite guests that are owning their future. So what is one tip that you can share with our audience about owning their future?
It's about finding your own dream, and that dream will basically create a direction, not necessarily a path. Even if it's a path, it's not linear, but it's about finding that direction for you, and how do you get from start to end. And during the process, you'll learn a lot, you'll fall a lot. It's about getting up, getting back up, always get back up, always move forward, because eventually you'll get there. And during the journey, you'll meet amazing people. You'll learn skills that you never thought that you would. You'll also gain probably new interests, right? But at the end, it's about just keep going, it's Finding Nemo, right? Keep swimming. Yeah, just keep swimming. Just keep swimming, exactly. And eventually you'll get there, and it will always be very rewarding. It's about creating that beautiful journey in a movie from start to end. Yeah.
Martin, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing everything. So this is Martin Liu, everybody, and I hope you watched and enjoyed as much as I did talking to Martin and learning from him. And we will see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.